Hi there. In this lecture we joined Magnus Carlsen with the white pieces against Luc van Wely. This is in 2006 DSB Bank match, the Van Wely against Carlsen match. So e4 for Magnus. We see, I would say, the ruthless kind of advantage transformer, transforming one advantage to another. Even a magnificent knight outpost in this game is instantly converted into another advantage in a sort of ruthless manner, you could say. So let's see. So we have a Sicilian defense. Knight f3, e6. Magnus plays the open Sicilian here. a6, knight c3. Queen c7, bishop d3, knight f6. So actually people kibitzing at Chess.com at the time thought that people should aim for more positional territory because Magnus was starting to be known as a tactical monster. So this is interesting. But with his tactics, I would say he's always got a very strong evaluation, very strong positional oriented tactics and calculation. It's not just, cold calculation. He's got a very strong evaluation function even at this time in 2006. So that's something he's quoted as saying, he has very strong evaluation in the final positions when he calculates. So we see bishop c5 here, knight b3. Bishop e7, f4, d6, a4, knight c6. So this seems like a positional variation, restraining black's b5. b5 is played anyway. Black gets some activity. So queen takes b6, check, king h1, in exchange for a target a6 pawn. Black castles. We have queen e2, a5. So that pawn under great pressure, a5, fine. Bishop e3, queen c7. And now knight b5, queen b8, and now c3. Okay, so black now plays d5, which seems to be a bid for some sort of counterplay. We have e5, which gives the knight d6 potentially. We have knight e4, that's actually taken. D takes, and now knight c5. So unless black wants to lose a pawn, they have to give up the dark square bishop. Bishop takes, and it looks here, after bishop a6, hold on, we can't take on f8, can we? Because the bishop takes b5, skewering queen and rook. So c4 played, fine, but d6 still looks very nice. And in fact, now that the knight's been unpinned, the knight goes into d6. So there's a problem with e4 here, which needs to be addressed, unless black's going to let e4 drop. So the move f5 is played. And this is what I think is really quite remarkable, that maybe we take a breather to sort of say, oh, we've got a really nice, good looking knight, octopus knight. You might have seen Kasparov, one of the classic games was an octopus knight, tentacles in all directions. But it seems Magnus is very ready to actually exchange this advantage for something else, which is even more exploitable. It's quite a ruthless looking move here. And for what? It's like, what do you think Magnus plays here for 100 points? I'll say, yeah, pretty ruthless exchange of advantages for something which might actually be even more exploitable. E takes f6, getting one pawn, getting another with pressure to get a third pawn, basically. But one of the key points is, intuitively, black's pieces seem a bit huddled on the queen side. They seem a bit spectatory on the queen side. We could have played g4 if we like the aesthetics of the knight. This is actually another way of playing it, just for the record. So we enjoy that knight on d6. There's g takes, and let's say e takes, rook g1 is a nice advantage. Black could also consider, though, knight takes e5, exploiting the unprotected bishop. And after queen takes, we still have a decent position here with advantage. That is another way of playing it. But actually e takes is the most accurate move in the position. Just immediately give up what seems to be a good looking knight. So that's fascinating. We have rook takes d6, queen takes e4. Well, here is where powerful evaluation combined with calculations come in mind. Because are we actually going to get another pawn very soon? So we're a knight down for 2 pawns right now. Are we going to get another pawn? as well as the exchange. We have bishop b7. If g takes, yeah, we can take the exchange and play rook a to d1, and the queen has to keep holding c6. The queen's kind of virtually pinned to c6. Because otherwise, yeah, we're going to take c6, but then that means we're winning another pawn here. And in fact, rook d7 is immediately decisive. Getting a rook to the 7th, taking out escape squares, you know, we're on the verge of mating here. This is absolutely winning. But otherwise, if the queen moves, we're just mating. So that's interesting. G takes f6, how that fails. Rook d7, we just take on c6. That's not going anywhere. We're just winning material here. And, okay, you might say, well, hold on. If we evaluate here, we've got a lot more pawns, but it's opposite colour bishops. Okay, so take this position. Let's take this position. We are actually significantly better here overall. So f5, rook d3. There's king safety issues. We can translate this maybe into a king attack soon. Yeah, there are some issues for black here. And this outside pass pawn is going to sort of weigh heavily on the black position. So that was interesting as well to consider. Rook d2, we're just taking on e6, and then taking on g7. And here rook a to d1. This is going to be an interesting position, but we just take on c6. And we have a nice clear advantage here. And we're looking at a8 as well. Okay, so, all right, so black tries bishop b7. So we win an exchange, which is okay. So we've won a rook, and we've got more pawns here. We've got two extra pawns right now. Rook a to d1. So maybe you might not think it's a big deal that we've won a rook as well. You know, we've won an exchange. So, okay, but we are actually winning even more now. We see knight d8. If queen f8, we'll win another pawn. And here we could play rook d7. If bishop c8, f takes g7 check. And here queen takes c6, hits the rook on a8. So, yeah, with the exchange up, and we have extra pawns. So that's not particularly good for black. Here, if queen f7, we'll just take on f7 and rook d7. Yeah, these things are exploitable. Yeah, things are falling apart, basically. The exploitability factor. If queen c7, we can take on e6, and again, this kind of fork here, double attack to win material. So knight d8 was tried. Black's trying to cling on to some, material, but now there's a devastating blow dealt to the black position. In fact, there's two options which are pretty devastating. f7 check is one of them. We could have also played queen takes h7 check. This position isn't bad at all for white. So if king g6, we can take and double the rooks, and then rook takes e6. This endgame is very unpleasant for black. We can play rook e7 here, and let's say bishop c8, rook d to e1. We're in control of the position with extra pawns. It's not worth black playing rook takes h3. That will just leave more liabilities off king g1. Black can't play rook takes h3. So anyway, f7 though is played, not queen takes h7. This does seem like a really dominating endgame scenario, this particular position. But f7 is great as well. We have king takes f7. If king f8, we just go with queen takes, and we're threatening not just the queen now, but queen g8. So knight takes, we take the queen, but otherwise, if say queen e7, queen g8, for example, queen g8 is mate. So king takes is played. If knight takes f7, yeah, we're just taking the queen. So king takes is played. Queen takes h7. We have queen c6. So black has this mate threat, Now, that's parried with rook f2, which is a multi-purpose move, actually. It's also for doubling the rooks. Now, the key threat, if white has another move, what would you say is the key threat for white? Yeah, I would say, it seems like f5 is really dangerous to blast open to the king. We are x-raying the king here. So queen e4 played, but f5 anyway, e5, and now that we've got control over g6, this battery is quite vicious, but the rook is tied down to g2 right now, but this battery is vicious. We have bishop c6, and now queen g6, actually multi-purpose move. It protects g2 as well as control escape squares of the king. So yeah, rook takes would just fluff it to queen takes g2 mate. But queen g6 check, protecting g2. Now if king g8 had been played, then we just take on d8 check, and this is going to be mating. So king e7, and now the kind of keen weakness of the last move, observer, deflector, tactic, mindset. What can we deflect usefully by forcing a kind of weakness of the last move, deflection technically? What would you say is a great deflection move here that is played? One downside of the black position we can include in our assessment is we're x-raying the queen. That's a clue for you. We are actually x-raying the queen. Count those as downsides. We have rook d7 check, and this ends the game. If bishop takes d7, weakness of the last move, f6 check, and we take the queen. On the other hand, if king f8, queen takes g7, queen e7 is mating. So yeah, that's pretty decisive. Rook d7 check. So an interesting game. It shows to me the ruthlessness of establishing a beautiful knight only to immediately give it up, consider giving it up with e takes f6, which happens to be like it's one of the strongest moves in the position. It's actually stronger than keeping the good looking knight. So that's an interesting illustration of accuracy and this ruthless willingness to translate one advantage into another, which might actually be more exploitable or a greater ripple effect of disaster subsequently. So yeah, there's a ripple effect of disasters here in this situation. Black's kind of overloaded with kind of irrelevant pieces under great pressure here. Great stuff. Okay, thanks very much. Hi all, I hope you enjoyed this free Magnus Carlsen lecture. I will be doing quite a few, in fact, because I'm working on a course about universal chess style with a lot of Magnus Carlsen game examples. So I hope you can actually support my channel indirectly by checking out my courses page at Kingscrusher TV. It has great discount codes quite often. So I have a number of courses I've been working on in the last few years. As you can see, I've been busy. Some of these have become Udemy bestsellers in the past or currently, like the Complete Beginner's Guide to Chess is a current bestseller. The Complete Guide to Chess Tactics was previously a Udemy bestseller. So I hope you can check out the courses, and there are free lecture offerings you can check out as well within these. If you really want to get an idea more about the course, you can also expand the course structure when you go and check out a course. So I hope you check out the Kingscrusher TV page, which has these great discount codes attached to all these links. So it's better than going to Udemy directly if you want chess courses, okay, at really affordable prices. So thanks again. Comments, questions, likes, shares appreciated. Thanks very much.